Hey Taurus, welcome back, beautiful soul. Welcome back to this sacred space, the space that was built for the ones who have been through the fire and are still here, still standing, still breathing, still choosing to believe that the truth matters and that the universe keeps its word. I was not expecting this reading. The cards are showing hidden tension, secrets coming to light, and a major reversal of energy. Someone's actions may finally be catching up with them. I need you to take a breath with me right now before we go anywhere, because what I am about to share with you today is not a light reading. It is not a gentle nudge or a soft encouragement. What I am about to lay out before you today is a full, detailed, card-by-card revelation of something that has been unfolding in your energy field for a very long time. Something that began the moment a specific person in your life made a deliberate, calculated, premeditated decision to move against you, and something that is now, right now, as you are listening to these words, circling back to her with the kind of precision and inevitability that only the universe can deliver. I am going to need you to stay with me for this entire reading. Every card, every message, every word. Because the story these cards are telling is not a fragment. It is a complete sequence, and every piece of it matters. Every piece of it was placed here for you, for this exact moment in your life, for this exact turning point that you are standing at right now. And by the time we reach the final card, you are going to understand something that perhaps no one has ever said to you clearly enough, that you were always going to be okay. That the universe never lost track of what was done to you, that it never filed the wrong name or misplaced the evidence or decided to give her a pass because too much time had passed. It did not. It does not. It will not. And today, these cards are going to prove that to you beyond any shadow of any doubt that she ever tried to plant in your mind. So get comfortable, settle in, and let us begin. The first card I am pulling for you today speaks directly to the origin point, the moment this all began. And I want you to pay very close attention to what this card is telling us, because it is revealing something about her that she has never wanted you to know. Something she has worked very hard to keep buried under layers of justification and deflection and carefully constructed narratives designed to make her look reasonable and you look like the problem. This card is showing me a premeditated action. I want to be very specific about that word, premeditated. This was not an accident. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not two people in conflict with equally valid perspectives. What happened to you was the result of someone sitting down, thinking it through, identifying what mattered most to you, and then making a deliberate choice to use that knowledge as a weapon. She saw something in your life, a relationship, a reputation, an opportunity, a source of stability or joy, something that represented value to you, something that you had built or were building, and she targeted it. Not with clumsiness, not with impulsiveness, with intention. The cards are very clear about this. There was planning involved in what she did. There were moves made in sequence. There was a strategy. And that strategy was designed with one primary objective in mind: to benefit herself at your expense. She did not stumble into harming you. She chose it. She weighed the cost to you against the benefit to herself, and she decided that the math worked in her favor. That calculation, that cold, transactional decision to hurt you on purpose, is what the cards are calling the original sin of this situation. And it is also the seed of everything that is now growing in her own garden that she did not plant and cannot uproot. Because here is what the cards want you to understand about premeditated actions against innocent people. They do not dissolve into the atmosphere the way impulsive mistakes sometimes can. They leave a residue. They leave a pattern. They leave an energetic signature that the universe recognizes and remembers. And eventually, when the time is right, and the time is always right when it comes, reflects back to their origin. She sent something out into the world when she moved against you. The cards are telling me that what she sent out is coming back to her now. And it is coming back multiplied, amplified, made more visible by the sheer distance it had to travel to complete its return journey. Take a breath with that. Take a real breath. Because this card is not asking you to feel anything about her. It is asking you to feel something for yourself. You were targeted. You were not paranoid. You were not being overly sensitive or dramatic or reading too much into things. What you sensed, what you felt in your body when something did not add up, what you knew in the deepest part of yourself, even when everyone around you seemed uncertain, was real, was accurate, was completely and entirely correct. These cards are here to confirm that today in every possible way. The second card is pulling us into what happened immediately after her action, the part she did not predict, the part that is most revealing about the nature of her error, and the part that began the process of her unraveling long before she realized it was happening. She thought her action was surgical. She thought she could target you with precision, cause the specific damage she intended, contain the fallout within a predictable radius, and walk away clean. That is what people who scheme believe when they scheme. They believe they can control the aftermath the way they controlled the setup. They believe that cause and effect will follow their script the way their plan did. They are almost always wrong. What the cards are showing me in this second position is a ripple effect, an unexpected spreading of the disturbance she created. Because you, beloved, are not an isolated system. You are connected. You are woven into the lives of other people, people who love you, people who respect you, people who share space with you in ways that are not always visible from the outside, but that are real and significant and deeply felt. When she moved against you, the impact did not stay contained between you and her. It radiated. It touched people she never intended to involve. It created disturbance in relationships and situations that had nothing to do with her agenda. And those people, the ones who felt the disturbance without understanding its source, began asking questions. That is the part she did not account for. The questions. The quiet, private, almost invisible questions that started forming in the minds of people around you, people around her, people who were simply perceptive enough to sense that something did not add up. Not everyone asked those questions out loud. Some kept them entirely internal, but they were asking. And questions, once formed, are extraordinarily difficult to unask. They sit in the mind and gather evidence. They pull in every subsequent observation, every inconsistency, every moment of strange behavior, every detail that does not quite align with the official narrative. And they hold all of that evidence together, building a case that nobody officially opened, but that everybody was quietly constructing on their own. Those questions are the second domino, and they are still in motion. The cards are showing me that some of those questions are very close to being answered now, answered by the very people whose curiosity she never intended to awaken, whose involvement she never invited and cannot control. The ripple she set in motion is reaching shores she cannot monitor and cannot walk back. And the answers those shores are about to receive are going to confirm what those people have been suspecting for a very long time. Now we arrive at the third card, and this one is very important because it speaks to the specific mechanism of her downfall, the thing that she built and relied on and poured enormous energy into maintaining, and the thing that is now beginning to fail her in ways she cannot repair. She constructed a narrative. I want you to really hear that word, constructed. She did not tell the truth and arrange it. She built a version of events out of carefully selected fragments of reality, fragments that she chose because they served her, and she distributed that construction to anyone who would listen. She presented it with confidence because she is skilled at that, at making a fabricated story sound like lived truth. She framed things in a way that made her behavior seem justified, her position seem righteous, and your experience seem exaggerated or misrepresented. And for a while, it worked. For a while, people accepted it because she delivered it with assurance, and because, in the absence of other information, a confident story is easy to believe. But the cards are showing me something very specific happening right now in the structural integrity of that narrative. Cracks. Hairline fractures that began forming the moment the first small inconsistency appeared, and that have been spreading, slowly but undeniably, through the entire foundation of her story. Details that do not align with other details. Timelines that shift depending on who she is talking to. Descriptions of events that contradict things people remember independently. These are not large, dramatic contradictions. Not yet. They are small. They are the kind of thing someone might dismiss individually. But they are accumulating. And the people who accepted her version of events are beginning to hold those accumulating inconsistencies up against each other and notice that they do not fit together the way a true story fits together. The energy I am reading right now tells me that she knows this is happening. She can feel the ground beneath her narrative becoming less stable. And the response she is having to that feeling, the way she is increasing her efforts to reinforce the story, is itself one of the clearest signals that something is wrong. Because a true story does not require reinforcement. It simply exists. It holds up on its own without constant management, because it does not contradict itself. The visible effort she is now putting into keeping her version coherent is telling everyone paying attention that her version is not natural. And that is a tell she cannot hide, no matter how skilled she is at telling it. These cracks are going to widen. The cards are certain of that. And when they widen far enough, the people who built their understanding of this situation on her foundation are going to have to make a choice about what to do with the rubble. Oh, this fourth card. I need to take a moment with this one. Because what it is revealing is something that she believed was completely and permanently protected. Something she buried. Something she took care of. Something she handled with enough thoroughness that she felt confident it would never surface, never see daylight, never become part of any conversation that she did not control. There is something she did or said or communicated, a specific thing that she worked hard to conceal. Evidence of the plotting, evidence of the intention, evidence that what happened to you was not accidental, not situational, not the product of misunderstanding, but the product of deliberate strategy. She covered her tracks around this thing. She was careful about it. She took precautions that gave her genuine confidence in its burial. The cards are showing me that this thing is moving. It is not fully above ground yet, but it is working its way up through the soil the way anything buried in unstable ground eventually does. The people standing on that ground can feel the instability beneath their feet, even if they cannot yet name what is causing it. The movement is happening through channels she does not monitor, through conversations she is not present for, through the slow migration of information between people who are beginning to share their independent observations, and finding that their observations, placed next to each other, point unmistakably in a direction she never wanted anything to point. When this buried thing surfaces, and it will surface, the cards are emphatic about that. It is going to do two things simultaneously. It is going to confirm what many people have been suspecting, that the initial action against you was far more deliberate, far more calculated, and far more extensive than she has ever admitted. And it is going to validate you, publicly, in a way that does not require your involvement, your campaign, or your effort. The truth is going to surface by itself, lifted by its own weight and the momentum of all the questions that have been gathering beneath the surface alongside it. You do not have to dig. You do not have to excavate. You do not have to do anything to accelerate this process. It is already in motion, already moving at the pace the universe has set for it. And that pace is moving toward a conclusion that has never been in any real doubt. I need to stop the cards for a moment. I need to step outside the reading structure and speak directly to you as the person I know you are. The person who found this reading today because something in them recognized that it was for them. I know what this has cost you. Not in a general, abstract, this must have been hard kind of way. In a specific, intimate, I can feel it in your energy kind of way. I know the nights when the injustice of the situation sat on your chest and you could not sleep. I know the moments when you wanted to take everything you knew and spread it out for the world to see. When you wanted to confront the narrative directly, shred it publicly, make everyone understand in real time what was done to you and who did it and how. I know how much you wanted to fight and how much it took not to. I know that restraint was not peace. It was discipline. It was a choice you made in the dark when no one was watching, over and over again, to not descend into the arena where she was operating and fight her on her terms. That choice saved you. I want you to hear that. That restraint, that discipline, that stubborn, grinding refusal to let her pull you into the mud with her, that is the reason the truth is moving so cleanly right now. Because truth, when it is not contaminated by the energy of retaliation, works with devastating, extraordinary, almost merciless efficiency. Your hands are clean. You did not taint this process. You let the universe do what the universe does without interference. And the universe is not wasting that gift. It is using every inch of it. You handled this with a dignity that perhaps no one has named yet, but that every card in this reading is honoring. Hold that, hold it in your body, in your chest, in the deepest part of yourself where she tried to plant the seed of doubt about your own worth. Let this reading water be something different there instead. The fifth card is pulling us into what is happening inside her. Not because her inner world is ultimately what matters here, but because understanding it helps you understand how close the conclusion is, and why the end of this particular chapter is imminent rather than distant. She is afraid. The cards are very clear about that. Not the productive kind of fear that leads to reflection and change, the desperate, cornered kind of fear that belongs to someone who can feel the walls moving and cannot find a door. She is sensing, not fully understanding, but genuinely sensing, that the ground beneath her narrative is less stable than it was. That the people she relied on to support her version of events are developing private doubts they have not yet voiced. That something she thought was controlled is beginning to move in a direction she did not authorize. And that fear is doing something to her behavior that the people around her are starting to notice. She is making mistakes she would not have made from a position of confidence. Statements that contradict earlier statements, behaviors that seem erratic or out of proportion to the moments that prompted them. Attempts to double down on her narrative that have the opposite of the intended effect, because the visible urgency of the doubling down communicates that something is threatening the narrative's stability, rather than that the narrative is simply naturally true. Invisible effort to maintain a story is one of the most powerful indicators that the story is not real. And her effort is no longer invisible. The seams are showing. The cards are also showing me that she is beginning to sense the presence of the buried thing I described in the fourth card. Not its content, not specifically what it is or where it is or who is about to find it. Just the energetic sense that something she thought was settled is not settled, that something she thought was handled is still moving. That sensation is producing in her a restless, anxious, slightly paranoid vigilance that is itself making her less effective at managing the very thing she is afraid of losing control of. Fear, when it enters the management of a lie, accelerates the lie's collapse. She is caught in that acceleration right now and does not know how to slow it down. Because slowing it down would require her to do the one thing she has never been able to bring herself to do: tell the truth. The sixth card is one of the most practically significant cards in this entire reading because it is identifying something happening in the social landscape around you that is about to change the entire permission structure of this situation. There is a person, a specific individual who was either an ally of hers or a neutral party who accepted her framing of events and whose acceptance of that framing gave others a reference point, a sense that the official version was credible because this person, this particular person, believed it, or at minimum, did not challenge it. This person's position has carried weight in the shared social environment. Their acceptance of her narrative has functioned as a kind of social endorsement, even if it was never intended that way. This person is changing their position. The cards are very clear about this. They have seen something, or heard something, or independently connected dots that were previously separated in their mind. And the picture those connected dots are forming does not match the picture they were given. Their understanding of the situation is undergoing a revision, a quiet but profound repositioning that is moving them from acceptance of her version toward skepticism, and from skepticism toward something closer to the truth. When this person's shift becomes visible to others, and it will become visible because the social environment is too interconnected for a repositioning this significant to remain entirely private, it will give permission to everyone else who has held private doubts to voice them. That is how social permission structures work. When a respected, trusted, or prominent voice in a shared environment says, "Wait, something here doesn't add up," the people who were privately feeling that but containing it suddenly have a reference point. Suddenly, they are not alone with their doubt. Suddenly, their doubt is validated by someone whose credibility they trust. And that validation opens a door through which every other contained doubt can walk. The cascade that follows will not be dramatic in the way public confrontations are dramatic. It will be quiet, gradual, a sequence of repositionings that leaves her standing with increasingly less company inside the narrative she constructed. And the person who set the cascade in motion will not have done so by attacking her or exposing her or even speaking about her directly. They will have done it simply by being willing to see clearly and to let their seeing be known. Now we arrive at the card that I believe matters most to your heart. The card that I want you to sit with the longest. The card whose message I want you to carry with you long after this reading has ended. The people who matter most to you, the ones whose presence and whose opinions carry the deepest weight in your life. The ones whose distance or doubt or withdrawal during this ordeal caused you the most profound pain. These people are seeing you clearly now, not through her filter, not through the haze of her narrative. Clearly, with their own eyes and their own judgment and their own hearts, that know you and love you and have been quietly working through everything they were told, against everything they independently know to be true about who you are. Some of them have not said anything to you directly. Some of them may not find the words for a while, because what they are sitting with includes the weight of having doubted you, even partially, even briefly, even privately. And that weight takes time to transform into the kind of conversation that would restore what was damaged. But the energy is there, the clarity is there, and you can feel it if you pay attention. A conversation that carries more warmth than it did 3 months ago. An invitation that arrives without the hesitation that used to accompany it. A look in someone's eyes across a room that carries more information than either of you spoke aloud. These are the signals. These are the forms that their returning is taking, quiet and real and accumulating. Each person who comes back to you with clearer eyes is a person who has left her narrative and weakened its infrastructure. Each relationship that repairs itself is a domino falling toward you, landing at your feet like something returned, something that was temporarily misplaced, but always belonged in your life. The cards want you to notice these returnings, not to hold them against the people for having wavered, because people under the influence of a confident, sustained, well-distributed narrative will always waver to some degree. That is human. That is not betrayal. That is a limitation. And limitation, when it corrects itself the way these people are correcting themselves, deserves something closer to grace than judgment. What I want you to feel in this card is the confirmation that you were always the one who was right. Not in the brittle, defensive way of someone who needed to be right, but in the deep, quiet, fundamental way of someone who was actually living the truth of the situation, even when no one around them seemed able to see it. You held the truth. You maintained the truth. You kept the truth alive inside yourself during months when everything external seemed to be insisting on a different version. And the truth held you in return. That is what you are watching come to fruition right now. The long, patient, unstoppable return on a very difficult and very faithful investment. The 8th card moves us fully into your side of this sequence. And I want to dwell here with full intention, because this is the part of the reading that belongs entirely to you. Not to her situation, not to her unraveling, not to the mechanisms of accountability. To you. To what is being built in your life right now as the corrective force that addressed her actions simultaneously rebuilds everything she tried to take from you. This is a restoration card. And the restoration it is describing is not a vague promise of better days. It is already in motion. It is already manifesting in concrete, specific ways in your life that you may be noticing without having fully named. I want to help you name them today. Relationships that cooled or fractured under the influence of her narrative are warming. People who went quiet are re-engaging. Connections that went through a period of distance are finding their way back to you. And this is happening organically, without your campaign for it, without your persuasion, without the exhausting work of defending yourself or proving your value. It is happening because the truth is correcting what the lie distorted, and the correction is reaching every part of the social landscape that the lie contaminated. There is also something practical, something professional or material, an opportunity or a door or a resource that was blocked or closed or made unavailable during the period when her actions were having their maximum effect. That blockage is dissolving. The cards are very clear about this. The obstruction that was placed in your path, whether by her direct intervention or by the indirect consequences of what she set in motion, is losing its validity. It is losing the support structure that kept it in place. And as that support structure weakens with her weakening, the door begins to open again. I cannot tell you the exact form this takes in your specific life, because the details belong to you and you will recognize them when they appear. But the energetic signature is unmistakable. Something that was taken is being returned. Something that was closed is reopening. Something that was put on hold because of circumstances she engineered is being released back into motion. And this release, this unblocking, is not random in its timing. It is precisely, almost mathematically aligned with the progress of her own consequences. The same force that is locking those consequences into place is simultaneously unlocking your restoration. They are two functions of a single corrective mechanism, and that mechanism is fully operational in your life right now. The 9th card is asking us to look at something that cannot be taken away, something that her actions produced in you against her own intentions, something that she could never have anticipated when she was planning her moves. Because this is something that only comes from enduring the specific kind of ordeal she subjected you to, and emerging from it without surrendering who you are. You know yourself differently now. That is what this card is saying. You have a knowledge of your own integrity that you could not have possessed before this happened. Because integrity tested is not the same as integrity assumed. You know now that your values hold up under pressure. You know that your commitment to not becoming what hurt you does not evaporate when the pain becomes acute enough. You know that you can stand in the middle of someone's sustained, calculated effort to destabilize your life and remain standing. Remain recognizably yourself. Remain faithful to the truth in your own chest, even when every external signal seemed to be endorsing a different version of reality. That knowledge is permanent. It is built into your foundation now in a way that theoretical knowledge of your own character never could have been. You have been tested. You passed. Not in the way a test is passed in a controlled environment, but in the way a material is tested by the conditions it was designed to withstand. And the material held. The material did not crack. And a material that has held under genuine pressure carries with it ever after the certification that it will hold again, that it can be trusted to perform under load, that its strength is not theoretical, but proven. She tried to shake you from the ground you stand on. She failed. And because she failed, the ground is harder now than it was before she tried. No one who comes after her, no one who attempts what she attempted, will find purchase. You have been sealed by the experience of surviving it, intact. And that sealing is one of the most significant gifts that this entire ordeal, painful and unjust as it was, has deposited into your life. It arrived at a terrible price, but it arrived, and it is yours, permanently. We arrive at the 10th card, the final card in this sequence, the one that addresses the title of this reading directly. The big trouble she is in, the conclusion she is approaching, the accumulation that she can no longer contain. The trouble she is in is not one catastrophic event. I want to be very precise about this, because when we imagine someone facing consequences, we tend to imagine a single dramatic moment, a public exposure, a confrontation, a revelation that arrives all at once and changes everything in an instant. What the cards are showing me is something more complex, and in many ways more thorough than that. What is happening to her is the cumulative effect of every domino that has fallen since she pushed the first one. Each consequence alone might have been survivable. Each exposure, each doubt, each repositioning of a key person, each buried fang working toward the surface. Taken in isolation, these are disruptions, uncomfortable but manageable. But they are not arriving in isolation. They are arriving in sequence, each one adding its weight to the total. And the total is reaching a mass that her carefully constructed position cannot support. She is in trouble not because one thing happened. She is in trouble because many true things are happening simultaneously, and the combined force of those truths is restructuring the landscape around her in real time. The support she relied on is withdrawing. The narrative she constructed is losing adherence. The buried thing is rising. The key person is shifting. The questions that were never supposed to get answered are finding their answers. And each of these developments feeds the others, each one making the next more likely, more visible, more difficult to reframe or absorb or redirect. This is the structure of genuine accountability. It is not a single blow. It is a pattern of revelation that leaves no corner of the constructed version untouched, that illuminates the whole shape of what was done from the beginning, so that the full scope of it is finally, undeniably visible. That illumination is what is happening to her right now. And it is happening without your involvement. You did not build it. You did not set it in motion. You did not campaign for it. You simply refused to lie alongside her, and that refusal was enough. The truth required only that you not contaminate it, and you honored that requirement. And the truth is now doing what truth does when given that kind of fidelity. It is working. I want to close this reading the way I believe it needs to be closed. Not with her, but with you. Because this was never really about her. I know the title suggests otherwise. I know that the mechanism of this reading required us to trace her trajectory alongside yours, because the two trajectories are connected. Because they are the two halves of the same correction, the two faces of the same cosmic accounting. But the center of this reading has always been you, your light, your endurance, your faithfulness to a truth that the world temporarily seemed to prefer she had told. Your stubborn, aching, non-negotiable insistence on remaining yourself when remaining yourself was the most difficult and the most costly choice available to you. You did not deserve what she did. I want that said clearly, permanently, without equivocation. You did not provoke it. You did not earn it through any failure of character or any inadequacy of worth. It was done to you by someone who encountered your light and experienced it as a threat rather than a gift, who saw something in you that confronted something in her, who made the wrong choice about what to do with that confrontation. That choice was hers. The consequence was yours, temporarily, until the corrective mechanism could complete its work. And the consequence is ending now. The weight she tried to chain to your ankles is dissolving. The shadow she tried to cast over your path is lifting. And what is being revealed beneath it is exactly what was always there. You, your gifts, your truth, your worth, your rightful place in the world, undiminished and undefeated. The dominoes have spoken. The chain that began with her calculation is reaching its end. And through all of it, every link of it, every difficult and slow and apparently interminable moment of it, you were the one the universe was moving toward, restoring, rebuilding, and ultimately vindicating. She is in trouble now, but you are free. And those two things, while connected, are not equal in importance. Her trouble is temporary, as all consequences are temporary in the scale of a life. Your freedom, the freedom that is arriving with the conclusion of this sequence, is permanent. It is the freedom of someone who has been through the worst someone else could design for them and has come through it without surrendering their soul. That is extraordinary. You are extraordinary. And from everything these cards have shown me today, from the first card to the last, from the first domino to the conclusion of the chain, the universe knows it, agrees with it, and has been working on your behalf with a quiet, relentless, meticulous love that never doubted the outcome even when you did. So go live now. Go live freely. Go live with the full knowledge that the ground beneath your feet has been tested and has held, that the truth you carried has been vindicated, and that the story unfolding ahead of you is yours entirely, unobstructed, unclouded, and finally, permanently free of the weight someone else tried to make yours to carry. This is Spiritual Healing Tarot. These cards were for you, and I will see you in the next reading. If this reading resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe so you never miss a reading, and leave a comment below. I read every single one. Until next time, I am sending you so much love and so much light. You are exactly where you are meant to be.